Hi guys, today is the 31st of December 2019 at 5 minutes past 11 in the evening over here in the UK. And I spoke about in the last video the US striking these five facilities in Iraq linked to Iranian proxies, Iranian backed militias. And as a result of that, you guys have probably seen in the news the protests against the US embassy in Iraq, the storming of the compound, trying to break in. Um, the US obviously having to reinforce with other military, sending Apache helicopters and whatnot. And Donald Trump is warning Iran um, over this embassy incident. He's blaming them for it, and he's calling it the anti-Benghazi. And obviously, Benghazi was the attack on two US embassies in 2012. Excuse me, not that one. In 2012. So it's kind of putting in your mind a situation where Iran would possibly launch some sort of attack against the embassy, and I think that could possibly involve Iran's Shia Crescent or Shiite Crescent, and you can see it in the images here how it is a red crescent in some of these images and how it goes across the map, highlighting the countries beneath which have a heavy Shiite presence. And in the iPad Go 2 video, not only do we have the reference to 31 up here in the clouds where we could be looking out for, obviously tonight, December 31st, where we've got all these escalations going on in the Middle East for things to potentially unravel. In this situation, there's the Strait of Hormuz, Iran, the USS Abraham Lincoln, other USS strike groups, and obviously the USS Embassy is another target. But in relation to the Shia Crescent, which is connected to Iran, as I said, in the images we saw on the Google page, you can see the crescent is of similar shape, and where we've taken this as the moon, obviously it's in the sky as what it appears to be, and it appears to be of an eclipse, and that could be, the partial eclipse that comes up on January the 10th, events following on from that as well. However, you've got the little um, sections here which we've classed as craters on the moon could actually be, the countries beneath the crescent, which highlight the areas where there's a heavy Shiite presence, just like it does here. So you'd have, the little craters making up the countries beneath. Obviously, not completely accurately, but just to give you that particular image. So I think that's what we could potentially be seeing there. So we could be seeing that happening across the Middle East, maybe tonight, January 3rd. That's not too far away. Obviously, with the partial eclipse, January the 10th. So there's a whole bit of timeline there. And in reference to the embassy, I think later on in the video may connect as well. This scene I don't talk about very often, or not really at all. This one here, we've often taken these businessmen as businessmen, referencing like the World Trade Center or the stock market, something like that, maybe even Congress. But there's obviously the possibility of diplomats. Diplomats, wear suits, carry briefcases, going out to do the government's work. And in relation to Donald Trump saying, not another Benghazi, and the possibility of Iran retaliating on the embassy for these, the five attacks that the United States did on their proxy, we could see something take place at the embassy like this, where there's a explosion of sorts, leading to further conflicts in relation to how many people at the embassy. Because I was thinking there's a lot of people in that particular scene, so how many people are really at the embassy. And the embassy formally opened uh, in January 2009 with a staff of over 16,000 people, mostly contractors, but including 2,000 diplomats. So there's a lot of people there, and that would, cover the extensive amount of people seen in this scene wearing suits. There's that whole possibility, so I'm just putting it out there because, especially in this part of the video, we're linked to the Middle East. Well, I think this part may have Vatican volcanic eruption influences, but this part here, we're in the Middle East again. So you can see there may be a flow on of connection, giving you a location as to where things may unfold, with, war in the Middle East. But with the United States attacking an Iranian proxy, it could be that Iran decides to attack a US proxy, which, could be the UK, for example. We're not exactly a proxy, we're an ally, but you get what I mean. Often the UK will be found wherever the United States is found with their military. So it could be over here. There is a heavy presence, of police, obviously, tonight for the New Year's celebrations that are going to be taking place in 50 minutes or so. Um, there was a warning I've never seen before issued from the Met Police telling people who didn't have a ticket not to attend the event. They won't be getting in. I've never seen that before. It may be that they have issued something like that before and I've missed it. But this year I've seen something like that. Um, so lots of things to watch out for. Obviously, New York again is a place we're looking at for potential events unfolding in connection with the Apple dropping, having connections with, the New Year's Eve ball drop, and then there's the potential for things to unfold in Big Apple. We've got the split, we've got the explosion. Again, with everything that's going on with Iran, it's a high time if a terrorist event, air quotes, was to take place. It's very easy to kind of blame it on Iran with the escalations that are currently taking place between the two countries. But obviously, if nothing takes place today, we've still got further watch dates, where we're looking out for these potential events. All I can say is that when I started this in 2017, going on in 2018, with the interpretation for Iran, the Strait of Hormuz, the blocking of the oil, the USS Abraham Lincoln, all of those interpretations came up. There were no real world signs of that actually taking place. Now, a couple of years later, a couple of hundred interpretations later, we're actually seeing things really building up in the way that we have kind of been looking at. As I say, we still pray and hope against it because, you know, bigger things to come if these other little things start to unfold. The domino effect begins. But have to be watchful and wary just in case. So, you guys, Happy New Year. Have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and may the Heavenly Father bless you.